How is everybody feeling about the album? I think I love it. I think I love it. On first listen though, I wasn't really feeling all of the songs. They didn't really make much sense to me, but as everybody's coming out with their deep dives into what the songs can mean, it is slowly growing on me. So for lack of a better term, I feel like this is a grower, not a shower. But I'm having such a good time with it. However, I feel like I haven't slept in days because all I've been doing is listening to this album to prepare for this video, which I've kept in my back pocket for a couple of years since I saw Books Past Bedtime put out a every track recommends a book from Midnight, and I thought it was such a good idea and I've been wanting to do it ever since. So now that Taylor has released a new album, here we are. I'm going to be recommending you a book for every single one of the tracks on this album, and I am so excited. Some of them are a little bit of a stretch, but I will try and explain myself for all of them. So if you want to jump around, I will have timestamps down at the bottom, and I'm going to be recommending books based on either the lyrics, the vibes, what I think that it feels like. So starting off with Fortnight. So to me, this kind of sounded a little bit like a short-lived romance, something that might have been a little bit forbidden, that you shouldn't have gotten into. And even though it was like a short affair, you still have the feelings for that person for a while, and it kind of messes with your life a little bit because of it. And the perfect book that I thought fit with that is Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. This is about a journalist who interviews an actor based over the course of 3 days or so, and it is a very popular article that comes out on this actor, and everyone thinks that these two have slept together, and it causes a bit of a scandal. But then he goes and gets married to somebody right after, and then 10 years later they are now back together for another interview that is a follow-up to the first one, and there may or may not have been lingering feelings all along. So I felt like this really fit the vibe of maybe right person, wrong time that I got from Fortnight, and it is a very good book, so I definitely recommend. Moving on to the title track, we have The Tortured Poets Department, which I feel like has just that dark academia vibe, or maybe light academia. I'm not really sure on the difference of both of them. I don't read a lot of either of that genre, but it felt very banter forward about pining for somebody else, and they also kind of understand you on a deeper level that nobody else does, and it just very much fits the vibes of Divine Rivals. This was overwhelmingly what me and my friends said was the right fit for this song, because it is about two people that are working in a newsprint, what is that called? And there's a lot of banter between them and a little bit of a rivalry between them, and the aesthetic of the book very much matches this entire album. So we had to throw Divine Rivals in for one of these picks, and it's one of my 5-star reads of the year. I absolutely loved it, so highly recommend Divine Rivals for this one, or just in general. Then we have My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, and this one feels like a song about denying all the red flags, kind of feeling like it's not that bad, everything is still kind of okay, but then realizing that actually no, it's not. He is definitely always going to continue breaking all of his toys, and you end up choosing yourself in the end. And the one book that I feel like really matches this to a T is a Colleen Hoover book, which I probably shouldn't be recommending, but It Ends With Us. This one is definitely about somebody denying all of the red flags in a whirlwind romance that she stumbles across, but also is looking back on her past in a romance that she had when she was younger and what could have been with that one too. And it's a lot of people's favorite. I liked it enough. I liked the message at the end. The author's note at the end really kind of wrapped everything up for me, but I feel like it definitely fits the feelings of this song of just denying all the red flags and thinking that things will continue to get better, but they never do, and you have to choose yourself. If you want to read it, read it. I'm not going to recommend it, but it fits the song, so I'm adding it to the video. Then we have Down Bad, which is one of the ones that I can't get out of my head, and this one is kind of like the aftermath of a breakup. You didn't expect it to happen, you are just not handling it very well, and it's such a bop for all of the sad lyrics. But the one book, or more of a duology, that fit this for me is Him by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This is about two men who had been at a hockey camp, I believe, and they were both like the co-counselors of this, and something may or may not have happened and they have a falling out and reconnect later. So I felt like it fit that angsty breakup feeling, and that also continues on into the second book too, which is called Us, I believe. So I would recommend the duology as a whole. I really liked both of these. I thought it was just a really good angsty love story about two men who are in a more masculine profession and don't really know how to handle being in love with each other. I thought it fit the vibe of this song so well, and I definitely recommend both the song and the books. Then we have So Long London, which ripped my heart out, but this one is kind of about looking back on a love that you thought was going to be forever and realizing that it just didn't match up to what you expected it would be, and you kind of have to set yourself free after it. And I thought that that feeling that the song brought really matched A Dowry of Blood, which is about the brides of, I said Frankenstein, Dracula, and the main or first bride kind of realizing that he wasn't all that she thought that he could be, and making the decision to maybe or maybe not let herself out of that situation. So thought it was an amazing book. It really was one of those ones that sucked me in the entire time. I could not stop listening. I kind of sat on the corner of my bed as I was supposed to be doing laundry and just fell into the book because it was so good and the language is so beautiful. I just really loved that book. So I felt like it matched such a heartbreaking song like So Long London. But Daddy I Love Him, I think, is my favorite. It gives me all of the nostalgia of listening to country music in the 90s, my mom singing along to it, me singing along in the back seat. I love this song so much, and I just love that we're gonna be in love no matter what anybody says. We're going to go against the grain and we're gonna choose each other sort of feeling, and I feel like that really matches Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, about the son of the American president and the Prince of England and their relationship that they probably shouldn't be having, but they want to have anyway. And it's just a good, sweet book. The movie is now out and so good too, so I felt like this was a very good but Daddy I Love Him pick. But I need you please to leave me in the comments any other books that have that good girl, bad boy, maybe small town romance, just big love sort of feeling, because I love this song so much and I need to have it in every single way that I can. Movies too, I will take those recommendations as well, because this song just gives me all of the feelings and I love it. So I would recommend this for this one. We'll look in the comments to see if anybody else leaves some recommendations for the song. Fresh Out the Slammer to me feels like a book about repeating mistakes and hoping that things will be different this next time, and that feeling really gives me middle grade vibes. This is by Shauna McGuire and it is not a romance, so even though the song's romance, this one is not. It is about two twins who were separated at birth, and there's a lot of sci-fi elements, time warping, time travel elements to it, but it is so well done. The connection between these two twins and the way that they kind of just want to change the world so that they could be together and be a family is so special, and I just really love this book. So it kind of felt like the same idea as a song, maybe doesn't match up quite to the lyrics, but highly recommend this book. I feel like it's a bit underrated. I know a lot of people have read it, but I don't feel like it went as far as it could. I just think it's so good. I didn't read the prequel because I heard that one was bad, but this one, super good. Did I call it middle grade? Middle game. I don't know what I said. I probably said middle grade, didn't I? Anyway, next one. Florida is one that is slowly growing on me. I didn't like it at first because I didn't understand the lyrics, but I loved the way it sounded, and I love Florence and the Machine. So this one is one that I liked because of the sound, not because of the lyrics, because I didn't get them. But then I saw that Taylor said that this one is kind of about running from your past and running to somewhere that you can put everything behind you and kind of make a new name for yourself. And I felt like the idea of that really matched The Bones Beneath My Skin by T.J. Klune. This is about a character who is definitely running from his past, and he ends up in a cabin that his family used to own, and then there are two other people, a man and a young girl, who show up at this cabin and kind of turn his life around, and they are also kind of on the run from something, but we don't know what. So it's not set in Florida, but it has the same like running from your past, trying to get away and make a new life for yourself a little bit sort of feeling. And I love this. This is a 5-star read for me. Highly recommend. This is more of a sci-fi though, so it doesn't fully fit the aesthetic of Florida, but it's still a really good book and I highly recommend. I will always recommend a TJ Klune book in all of my videos, so here's the one for this one. Then we have Guilty as Sin, and it's a song about like fantasizing about somebody and pining for them, and it has the word sin in the title, so I felt like what other book would fit besides Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I just read this one and it is about the 7 deadly sins, and they are princes of hell, and it is kind of like a Bridgerton but spicier and darker because it has to do with demons and whatnot, and it is so good. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was so much fun, and our main character in this one has a bit of a run-in with the sin named Envy, who wants to hire her over for a little bit of a scavenger hunt that he's going on, and she ends up fantasizing about him quite a lot in this one, so I felt like that fit this song so well, and I just think it was such a fun and really spicy book, so I highly recommend that one. Then we have Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, and I'm resisting the urge to go and grab every single book that is fantasy based with strong female characters because it just gives me that fantasy feeling, and I love this song so much. It has that element of this is the witch we all talk about, this is who we all whisper about, and she decides like, why not be who they all say I am, sort of feeling that like feminine rage one. And I picked one book that I feel like really encapsulates the feminine rage, and that is Wayward by Amelia Hart. This is about 3 different women in the same lineage who all have a bit of magic to them, and everything that they endure in all of their different time periods throughout their history, and it's so good. It has the feeling of this cover, it has the feeling of this song, and I highly, highly, highly recommend this one. And then we have I Can Fix Him, and who else really encapsulates somebody who is trying their best to fix a man who is not very good for them than Miss Camilla Dunn in Daisy Jones and the Six. If you haven't read this one, where have you been? It's just so good. The audiobook is incredible. It has a full cast of characters, and if you haven't seen the show, that one is also so good. And Camilla Dunn is just my heart and soul. She is such an angel and my favorite character, or one of my favorite characters in all of the books that I have ever read. And in this one, she is the wife of Billy Dunn, who is the main singer of Daisy Jones and the Six alongside Daisy, and Camilla goes through it because of this man, and I feel like I Can Fix Him, no really I Can, is her song through and through. LOML is so good, so heartbreaking. It's just about the biggest loss that you have ever had, the biggest heartbreak you've ever had, and just that bittersweet feeling of things not working out how you thought it would. And the one book that I always come back to when I want to have angsty, rip my heart out sadness over a relationship is Raven Song by TJ Klune. This is the second in the Green Creek series, which is a series about werewolves, and it is surprisingly so heart-wrenching and so gut-wrenching at times because TJ Klune really knows how to put his characters through it. And did I say I was only recommending one TJ Klune in this? I lied, I'm recommending another one. But this is about Gordo and Mark, who are 2 characters from book 1, and it is the reason why they kind of cannot speak to each other anymore, and what happened that led them to be so distant from each other, and the heartbreak that they put each other through. And it is a bit of a second chance romance, and I love them so much. Love them absolutely to death. This one is so good. So I felt like this really fit that heartbreak of LOML. Can we all just agree to call it either Love of My Life or Lost of My Life, because it's kind of hard to say as a title. Read the Green Creek series, please. I would really appreciate it. My second favorite on the album, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, about putting on a brave face and smiling through it even though you are broken inside. I felt like, and my friends also agreed, Happy Place is the one for this. This is about two characters who have recently broken up and called off their engagement, and they are pretending that they are still together so that they can be around their friends and not ruin this vacation that they all planned together. And they are both putting on a brave face so that they don't have to deal with those sad feelings of this relationship ending. And it matches the song so perfectly. What is it with the song being so upbeat with sad lyrics and this title being Happy Place and it making me cry more than some of the saddest books I've ever read too. But we love it. We love to happy cry and sad cry all at once. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lives is a bit of a story of trusting somebody and believing that they can give you the world and become who you want them to be, but then them turning around and pulling the rug out from under your feet and you not really understanding why they did this. And it felt very much like Shadow and Bone to me. I know that there are others that I could have recommended, but I just felt like there is a relationship in this that felt very similar. And this one is a magical world that has a main character who realizes that she is a light weaver, is that right? I might be getting that a little bit wrong, but she has the ability to undo this like curse that's happening on the kingdom that they live in. And so she is taken under the wing of a man called the Darkling, and he is basically promising that they can save the world. And it's definitely a very YA story. It's not my favorite in the entire Grishaverse, but it has the same feelings as this song, so that's why I'm recommending it here. The Alchemy is one that's definitely growing on me, and I feel like there's a lot to it, but it's giving me slow burn. It's giving me finally giving into feelings even though you've been denying them, and it's talking about alchemy. And I have literally just finished reading A Far Wilder Magic, and this one is about a man who is an alchemist and he teams up with a woman who is a sharpshooter, and they are going to go and enter into this hunt where they are hunting this demiurge, which is kind of like a demon. And along the way they get to know each other, even though it kind of starts off a little bit enemies and maybe moves into something more, denial of feelings. There's all of the feelings in this book, and I really enjoyed it. And because of the title being The Alchemy, I had to include a book that had alchemy in it, right? So that's why I'm recommending it here, and I have just freshly finished it and really enjoyed it, so I just needed to add it to this video too. And then of the initial album drop, we have Clara Bow, and this one is kind of about dreaming of being famous and then always being compared to other people, and fame not really being what it was promised to be. It's not as dazzling and sparkling as you hoped it would be, and eventually you get to a point where you're so famous that now somebody else is coming in to be the new you. And I wasn't entirely sure what I could pick for it, but I am going to say not just The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm talking more the entire series that starts with this book, where it's really about the dark side of fame and the dark side of being in the spotlight and everything that kind of goes on because you are achieving this stardom. And so I felt like that was the best I could do with this one. I don't read a lot of literary fiction, and I felt like that might have done a little bit better with Clara Bow, but I would say this series still has that feeling of wanting to achieve super success and then not really being all that it was supposed to be, which is definitely very heartbreaking and gritty, like the song felt to me. And now we're moving on to the anthology part of this album, starting with The Black Dog. And this song, I'm still trying to get my bearings with it, but I feel like overall it's like working through heartbreak. Somebody else has moved on from you and you're a little bit jealous of who they're with and kind of comparing her to yourself. And that made me think of this book, right here, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is about two sisters who are kind of going on their own quest of finding love. One sister maybe has gotten into a relationship with the wrong person, and another sister is kind of waiting for it to be her turn to be the one to get a romance. And there's a bit of jealousy between the sisters on like somebody getting love when you want it, and also between characters. And I just thought this was a really well done book, and the movie is really, really good. It has Kate Winslet in it, and I really enjoyed that, so I'd recommend this one for the Black Dog. I'm Gonna Get You Back felt very much Olivia Rodrigo, and I loved it. And I got the sense that it was kind of like uncertain about feelings, kind of having complicated feelings towards somebody, maybe a little bit enemies to lovers. And one book in particular that I think is a perfect enemies to lovers story is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is about a main character who has been sent to go into like dragon rider school, basically, even though she has grown up her entire life wanting to go into the scribe school. And there is a character who immediately becomes her rival, her enemy, and they are forced to have their lives intertwined because of the dragons in this story. And I really enjoyed it. I flew through this series so far. The first two books are out, the third one's coming out in a little bit, and I love it. It just feels like fun. It's like ACOTAR in the young love but also fantasy world, and I don't know, I just think it's such a fun story. It's not for everybody, but I really liked it, and it reminded me of this song. The Albatross is one that I've been struggling a little bit to find something for, but after listening to it probably a dozen times trying to figure out what it's about, I felt like it was a little bit of a story about wanting somebody that you know might not be right for you, and also being that person that you know is not right for somebody but still choosing them anyway. That was a small thread I feel like I got out of it. I still need to do a lot of deep diving into the song, but going off of that feeling that I got, I'm going to recommend A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland. This is about a prince who kind of got a little in trouble, and his sister, who is the queen, basically tells him that he needs to go and fix an issue that's going on with the kingdom so that she can trust him again. And in this kingdom there are these really well-respected bodyguards that all of the royals get, and they are more than just bodyguards though. They are like companions and they are advisors, and there's so much to them. But the prince is assigned this new bodyguard, and there is a bit of a enemies to lovers relationship with them, kind of a should we not situation with them. And this whole world is so beautiful. It is probably one of my top rated worlds that I've ever read because there's so much detail. This author really loves her characters, so I am going to recommend this book for this song. Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. How are we going to abbreviate this song? Because it's a little too long for me. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. But this one I felt was a little bit about trying to be what somebody wants, but also at the same time, after it doesn't work out, you're the one to be blamed for the fallout, even though you were trying to be who they needed. And I felt like that fits very perfectly into the first two in the ACOTAR series. I was really trying to avoid recommending these, but a lot of these songs I did feel some ACOTAR vibes for them. And in this, there is a character who kind of tries to become what somebody wants, and we find out in this book that maybe it didn't really work out the way that they expected it to. And I really enjoyed these. I thought they were really fun, and like everyone says, book 2 is better, so you still have to recommend and read book 1 to understand book 2, but this is more of the recommendation here because it fits more of the feeling with this song, or what I got out of this song so far. So that is what I would recommend for Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. How Did It End was about to be the one song in this album I could not find a book for. So I did have to reach out to some friends and I asked them what they thought. And one book that had been kind of in the back of my mind was one that they agreed on. And that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is about Achilles and Patroclus. Is that his name? Am I getting that wrong? I got it right. Look at me learning my Greek mythology finally after years. But this is such a well-written story. It's not one of my favorites personally, but it felt very tender in how she approached their relationship, and there's a lot of heartbreak, but there's also a lot of joy in it. And I felt like this song has the same feeling that you get after you finish the very ending of this book. The last chapter, those last lines are so gut-wrenching but beautiful at the same time, and I felt like that feeling in How Did It End really matches up with that ending of this book. So if you haven't read it, it has a lot of quotable, beautiful moments, but it's personally not one of my favorites. I've heard Circe is really, really good though, so it's still on my shelf. I still need to read it, but Madeline Miller really knows how to write a book. It's her language is so good. So that's what I'm recommending for this one. And then we have one of my faves, So High School. Did you notice in the lyric video that T, S, and TK are a little blush color on the line cheeks pink in the twinkling lights? It makes me so happy. The song is just like giddy love, feeling like you are in just this young love again, even though you're an adult. And I feel like the only book that really matches that giddy romance feeling has to be Heartstopper. I mean, come on. This book, this TV series too, is just that pure young love that makes you just smile so big. It's so cute and sweet, and I feel like this just has to be the recommendation for this song. There's nothing else, but if you have any other recommendations, I would love to hear them, especially like what I said earlier with that small town romance, just like giddy love. Ugh, I want it so bad. So all of the recommendations for this song plus But Daddy I Love Him, those are the two that I'm looking for right now. I Hate It Here is for us reader girlies, about wanting to escape our reality and go into a world that we imagine in our heads. I love it. And one book that I was thinking of, there's actually quite a few, but one that I recently read is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. In this one, we have a main character who's kind of like a religious figure, and her life is very regimented and strict, and she can't do the things that she's longing to do. And then on the other hand, we have a painter who paints away nightmares, and their two worlds collide, and she realizes that her life can be a little bit more. So I felt like it fit this song well because she's dreaming of a better life for herself but doesn't really let herself. So it's for all of us reader girlies too. But I really love this song. It's so beautiful. I love this album. The more I listen to it, the more I'm just like deeply in love with it, and I regret giving any of these songs 2 stars at the beginning. Next up we have Thank You Aimee, which I love. I love the little shout out to We Know Who, but this song seems to be about making it for yourself after you've been put down over and over again, and just kind of getting through all of that negativity and becoming who you always wanted to be, like making a legacy for yourself. And there are a few books that I was kind of going back and forth on, but I'm recommending another Brandon Sanderson. This one is Skyward though. This is one of his series that is not set in the Cosmere. This can be like read as a standalone series, and this is about a main character named Spensa who has kind of been looked down upon because of something her father did, and she really wants to prove everybody wrong, and she wants to become a pilot even though the government, the people in her society are trying to really make that impossible for her, but she wants to do it anyway and prove to them that she's not a coward and neither is her father. So I felt like this really fit the feeling of coming out the other side despite all of the negative talk around you. So that's why I would recommend it for this one. Then we have I Look in People's Windows. This was one that I didn't really love at the beginning, but it's slowly growing on me. And I think I've said that about most of these songs at this point. But yeah, they just weren't hitting when I first listened to them, especially the second half, because I was listening to it at 6 in the morning. So I think that really contributed to me not liking and understanding these. But I Look in People's Windows seems to be about losing somebody and missing them so deeply that you're kind of looking for them in all of the faces of everyone around you. But I also think it is a song about like the what ifs of life. What if we stayed together? What if this happened in a different way? And the best book I can think of for what ifs is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one is a book about a woman who makes a decision, and from that decision her life splits off into 2 timelines. So we get to see what that one singular decision looks like in both of her lives and the people that she meets, the people that she loves, and it's really just the biggest what if sort of book to me. And it's one of those books that I just look back on time and time again because it really just changed me as a person on how I view life and how I view the potential of my future and stuff. So highly recommend this one if you haven't already read it. And I think that means I've recommended 3 Taylor Jenkins Reid's books in this video. But I tend to just read a lot of the same author once I know that I love their books, and I just kind of dive deep into all of their books. Hence why I've read nearly 30 TJ Klune books. But moving on. Then we have The Prophecy, which was one that I didn't love the first time I heard it because those words didn't register for me. And now that I've read it, it rips me into pieces because it is about like waiting for it to be your turn to be the one to have the true romance, to be the one to be the main character of your story. And the lyrics are, it's like she came into my brain and my heart and just ripped it all out and then put it on paper, you know? And one book that I felt like really had that same feeling would be Penelope's story in the Bridgerton series. And I'm also kind of recommending this because we know that the show is about to come out and it's gonna have that same feeling of just like wishing that you were the one to be chosen, you were the one to be somebody's first pick, you know? So that is why I'm recommending this one. I don't feel like you have to read the Bridgerton stories in order. It does help to get to know some of the characters. This one, maybe slightly you would like to read the first ones before, but it's not necessary. However, Colin in this book is not as wonderful as Colin in the show, so take that as you will. The Bridgerton men in the books are kind of trash garbage, but still, Penelope in this is really lovely. I still really enjoy her as a character and just her yearning to have it be her turn. The song is like slowly creeping up to my top 5 of this album. Then we have Cassandra, and this one felt like a story about somebody saying that they weren't being believed, especially by the people who were supposed to take care of them, that they were struggling to be heard and struggling to have people take care of them and protect them when they really needed it. And so one book that I felt like really matched that was The Grace Year by Kim Liggett, where this is about a society that sends off 16-year-old girls to a wilderness camp basically for an entire year where they're supposed to survive and get rid of their inherent magic. And it's really about this town that's just not protecting these women and are believing the lies that the town says, that these women are going to be dangerous if they don't get rid of this magic. And it puts these young 16-year-old girls into a lot of pain and horrible situations. And I just think it's so good. And I would say it definitely matches the feeling of Cassandra all the way through. We're getting closer to the end and we have Peter up next, and this one seemed to be about wishing that somebody would choose you and also looking back on all the things that they promised you that they never fulfilled. And this one was a little bit harder for me to find a book for it too, but I thought of Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is about Aphrodite telling a story of these young couples, and one of them happens to be going into the military, about to go off to war, and it's not long after this couple falls in love too, and it separates them and the war kind of breaks them apart. But it's also a story about Aphrodite and her history with the person that she's telling the story to, which is her husband. So I felt like that really matched up with this song as well. So I would recommend this for Peter. Then we have The Bolter, which is one that I still need to do more of a deep dive on, but it seems to be about a girl who runs from either bad situations or runs towards her future and not really looks back on things. And that really reminded me a lot of Parisa in the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I just think that Parisa's character is super interesting. She's not one of my favorites, but she is somebody who runs a lot, and whether it's for the better or for the worst, she is somebody who probably has the most introspective thoughts in this book and really understands herself and understands her wants. And I just feel like this song matches her character very, very well. So should I talk about what the book is about? Probably, yeah. This is about 6 characters who are hand selected to go into a society where they're supposed to do a lot of studying, and there's a lot of them thinking about things. It's one of those books that is like very, very smart, so it matches the whole aesthetic of this album, but it's one of those ones that I don't fully understand. A little bit like some of the lyrics of this album too. So, you know, might as well just recommend this as a whole for this album because it fits the vibes, right? Moving on. I had to look up what Robin is about, but I guess it's titled after Aaron Dessner's son, and this is a song that him and Taylor wrote together, kind of about the simplicity of childhood and also just like the need to protect the young. And I could recommend another TJ Klune book here, possibly The House in the Cerulean Sea, but I won't. I'm going to recommend Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is about a woman who gets a call from her former best friend and asks her to take care of some kids who may or may not have some magical powers, and they're a little bit dangerous. So this woman takes the job because she kind of needs the money, and she ends up learning how to take care of kids and how to like care more about other people than just herself. And I thought it was really sweet. It's definitely been compared to The House in the Cerulean Sea, but it's a super short read and I really enjoyed it. I thought that these were sweet characters. I love books with kids in them, especially really cute, funny ones. So I'd recommend this one. And also House in the Cerulean Sea. I'll always recommend that one. And then we have the Manuscript, which is the final song on this album, and it's kind of reflecting back on what you went through, the losses that you just had, and then finally feeling like you can move forward and close that chapter of your life. And one book that I thought did this so well is another Bridgerton book. This is my favorite of the series, and it's When He Was Wicked. This is Francesca's story, and in this one she has recently lost her husband after a year of marriage, and she was absolutely in love with him, and then had some more tragedy happen to her right after that. And it's her learning to move on, feeling like she's finally ready to go out and try and find another husband because she wants to have a child one day and be a mother, and there is somebody along the way that kind of helps her through it. So I thought this book handled so much so well. I thought Francesca was a wonderful character. I really felt for everything that she went through, and this song really matches that feeling of closing that final chapter and starting the next part of your life into the next book. So I highly recommend this one. Of all the Bridgerton books to read, this is it. This is the one. This is hopefully going to show up in later Bridgerton series. I hope the series continues enough to get to hers because it's just so beautiful, so wonderful. So highly recommend this one. But I do still have 2 more books to recommend because I've had this idea in the back of my mind for so long, and there are 2 books that I've just been wanting to recommend for some songs. So let's get into those. Okay, first bonus song is No Body, No Crime. I cannot listen to it without thinking about Pretty Things by Janelle Brown. This is a book about a woman who is a bit of a con artist, and she picks one person to run a big con on and get a lot of money because she's kind of really struggling to make ends meet. And so she picks this one girl for a very specific reason, and then things get a little bit suspenseful from there. It's a very slow moving story. I personally didn't love the way that the story was structured. I felt like there could have been something done differently with the editing, but the story overall always makes me think of No Body, No Crime. So I'm definitely recommending this one if you enjoy that song and the storytelling in the song. So I liked it. I still think about it, but I do remember really not liking the structure of how things were laid out. It made it feel pretty long, but still good. And my second bonus song is Ivy, which is really one of the big reasons I wanted to make this video, because every time I hear Ivy, I think of this book. Without fail, I think of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I feel like Taylor must have read this book and then written the song, even though I believe that this came out well after Ivy came out, but they match up so well. It's really unbelievable to me. But this is a book about Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil years and years ago, and everybody she meets going forward forgets who she is. And one day she meets somebody who remembers her, and she's really trying to figure out why he would remember her and hold on to him despite the devil that she made a deal with not wanting that for her. So I just feel like it is the exact same storyline as Ivy, and I love it so much. I love that connection. Every time the song comes on, I think about it. 34 book recommendations later, and we have made it to the end. I hope you found at least one book that you would be interested in reading. Again, please let me know if you have any book recommendations for But Daddy I Love Him, as well as So High School, in the comments, please. I would appreciate you forever and ever and ever. But I am at the end of my lunch break and I need to go clock in, so I'm going to end this video here, and I will see you next Tuesday for another bookish video. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.